because light has to escape it. So once these estates were abandoned, they were then forfeit and fell under the jurisdiction of the United States. And then through the Cestui Trust, we're convinced then that these estates are not ours because we are calling ourselves other names, like African and whatever. You see what I'm saying? So it all fits in nicely into a nice big bow. But based on even their own state records, the only people they really didn't have jurisdiction over were true Moors, Hindus, and Asians. Thus, the war to destabilize any nations that were affiliated with the old Moroccan Empire to help keep us perpetually in the state that we're in is going on. And all of this is based on money. But the money, remember, they print that. It's not just that. It's about controlling the vast estate that we call Earth, that was betrothed and bequeathed to us specifically. And everybody has their version of it, and everybody has saying that they have people from it and all of that. So if I just add my voice to the fact that it was our people, what difference do it really make? If everybody else can lay claim that they had it from all this time immemorial, but then all of the ancient pictures of these people they talking about look just like me and other black people here in America, then what I'm supposed to look at it as. So because all descendants of Noah are Caucasian, that is why you have the term free white people, and Caucasians could never be free white people. Because their original designation was W-I-G-H-T, white, which means like a ghost or apparition, meaning at one time they were incorporeal here. They had no station, therefore a station had to be prepared for them, as everything that exists in physical matter has to have a purpose, something to do. So the same way you got the white blood cells in your body getting rid of all of the stuff that you don't need and this extra stuff or whatever, the same way you externalized that and created a version that manifests and does the same thing. Only thing is doing it with people. Your own people and our own people who are dumb, deaf, and blind to who and what they really are and what their original station is. The Social Security account actually created the slave number for those people who had abandoned their estates or cannot have an estate, like anyone born or descended from a Moor, a true Caucasian, or what they would call a true Aryan. You see what I'm saying? This is where the whole thing starts germinating into one big mesh, because now you start to see that a lot of this Grand Dragon and clan stuff they're doing is really derivatives of your science work against you. So because the Catholic Church claimed all the people of the Third World as descendants of the slaves, the original slaves of the Moors, who were now denationalized and made Moriscos and Christians and stuff, which meant that their estates now belonged to the Vicar of Christ at the time, who was the Pope, as well as the Jesuit Order of the Society of Jesus, that had followed these Moors from the halls of Granada all the way over here to Grenada and the empire in the south, which was ruled by the last emperor before Noble Jah Ali, who was Montezuma of the Temuancan Empire, of the Olmec Maya, Aztec, Inca. So in that, the birth certificate is actually proof of the estate when used properly. When used in the negative or denied, it becomes an abandoned estate that is in access by the United States under the term property improvements under UCC 1. Being homeless means that you occupy no corporate residence. You see? Meaning that you are not in business with them. So they create vagrancy laws to get people who are not within their corporate jurisdiction to get off of any lands that are corporately sanctioned, you see. So as I'm showing you, every law that really existed natural, they've created an antithesis, anti-law, to exist in that. Let's see. Oh, yeah, if anybody wants to call in, you can call in at 347-637-1184. Okay. Yeah, so in that, this is why the prophet said don't give away your Bibles, because the Bible is actually, Scripture is actually ecclesiastical estate law, or ecclesiastical trust estate law that is mandated by you, and when used by you in your true title, means that you are acting as the person you are subject of. So in that, we are all subjects of the true and living God, right? So that means then that we are that when we are speaking that name. Therefore, when you write the prophet's name and put him into play, into what it is you're doing, you are accessing the divine part of the national movement, which is sometimes, or a lot of times, neglected. When that's the part that we actually have. But what I've understood is that a lot of modern Moors like the conventional means of warfare with this beast in terms of jurisdictional trivialities, meaning that they like to engage with them sometimes to test their chops, which is cool, but the goal is to get it all done by the mail if possible. So by the time they actually physically see you, you've been so enamored and hyped up that they just need to get you up out of there. You know what I'm saying? So at times when it's legal, for example, God placed his name on his people, like I said, in Numbers 6:27 and Acts 15:14, right? That is, he authorized them to speak and act in his name. At times when this legal covenant or power of attorney to make decisions in his name becomes permanent, the name is considered not on, but in the empowered agent. Understand? However, the legal sharing of authority between the delegator and his agent can sometimes become blurred, meaning between who is exhibiting the power and how that power is being wielded by the person wielding it. Okay, we got a call. 678 on Super Heru Radio.
Peace.
Peace.
Peace, more.
Peace,
really
man.
Appreciate your show, man. You really be dropping it. Some of it goes over my head, but then when I go back and look at the sources, you be right on point. I did have a question for you more if you have some time. That stuff you're talking about, the name, is real powerful, and takes me back to that verse in the Bible. I can't quote it directly, but it talks about how, you know, if my people are called by my name and so forth, and, you know, if they humble themselves, God will heal the land. And I believe that you also was reading that part from Acts, and how it was saying how God put his name on his people. So I think that's what that's the whole part when the prophet was telling us about using our free national name. Basically, that's what's going to give us the entry to give us freedom. But I think we have a lot of misconceptions about how we use that name. For instance, me and my wife became married. So the legal form that you have to go through is somebody got to fill out some application, go through court, put this stuff in the record, and then, go down to the DMV, change this, file that, you know what I mean? Now, I guess, I don't see, like, in the temples and other places how we really demonstrate, like, you should be able to use your name just point blank. But if you operate in these, different contracts, you're not going to be recognized unless you got their paperwork in their system. And our system, the way we operate, that's fine. You are who you are. You are who you say you are until you're proven otherwise. But when you have to deal with that beast, that's the problem. And if you could just kind of elaborate on maybe some options, and also if you can give me that book that you were just quoting from just a few minutes ago, so I can do further research and I can listen offline, brother.
Okay, peace, King. Well, this is where having like a temple and a sheep, like think about it. How do Jehovah's Witness get around and work in society and stuff with no birth certificate if they don't have no birthday? You know what I'm saying? Who's cashing in on those estates if they don't have that? Like, think about that. The person that is controlling that is probably the person at the head of the religion. Because once they sign up to the religion and all of that, they basically fall under the protection and jurisdiction of whatever ecclesiastical trust that religion has set up for itself. Therefore, they've abandoned their own estate and now have had Jehovah's Witness take over that estate to the point where they have admonished their original estate, which was the name that was on their birth certificate, whether or not they know that or not, right? So that's an example of what happens when you don't use it, somebody else does. But there are privileges to some who do that, like citizens of the United States, who, for whatever reason, go through situations where they have their marriages or whatever else validated by the United States court because you're told that's the only way you can do it. But then if that's the case, then how do, like, Hindu people and Indian people, you know what I mean? Yeah, some of them go down, but then, like, they relatives and stuff, they didn't do that. You know what I'm saying? Like the ones that just came over from India, how they still acknowledge as being married if America only acknowledges its own citizens. It doesn't. America acknowledges who it wants to acknowledge. But if you have your own so-called religious structure at play, then you can have your own ceremony and then record that yourself or have your temple, have it recorded in your temple, and that works, if not better, than having the United States do it. So, for example, let's say if you have a baby, and then, at the time when the baby's born, the first thing they do is pull out the paper to stamp the baby foot and all of that. Well, if you already have your Moorish baptismal certificate on deck, at the same time they doing that, they doing yours. Yours will supersede the birth certificate because now from the door you're giving the baby the free national EL or Bay at the end of their name, which means you ain't got to go back and correct it later. But then at the same token, you have the original certificate, meaning that the baby was born originally into the Moorish Temple first. You see what I'm saying? Of which then the birth certificate is then established as evidence of the estate in the commercial world. But because that estate has EL or Bay at the end of it, it is now connected to the free national or national estate that already exists. That we don't know.
That's even despite them setting up that straw man through the birth certificate.
Yeah, the birth certificate, the straw man. The beauty in that would be that the straw man itself, right, is no longer a straw man because you added the free national name to it from the door. But at the same time, instead of just relying on the birth certificate, you actually have a Moorish certificate of baptismal from as soon as the baby came out. So at the same time, they created their aspect of it for you that they think they can control. They don't, because you have the binding aspect of it, the ecclesiastical aspect of it that you came with. You see what I'm saying? To do yourself for your child.
Gotcha.
Okay. And ecclesiastical law always supersedes commercial law. Because then if they try to say, oh, well, that's not valid, then you're trying to deny the estate that's already evidence in their birth certificate with the same name on it.
Right. Okay.
Which means that this baby's a Moor. You can't, you know what I'm saying? You can't